Well, welcome back to Carolina Saltwater Living, y'all. I'm in the kitchen again today. It's been raining, cold, and windy down here on North Carolina, southeast coast of North Carolina. I ain't going to Walmart anymore this week. Done been there, done that. But I am bringing something to you that some of you are going to be like, what are you making? It's called Kibbeh. It may be pronounced Kibbeh. It may be pronounced something totally different. But I remember this from my childhood coming up. I'll explain a little bit to you as we get going along. But this is inspired by a dish that I ate growing up. It is not going to be authentic in any way. Very rarely do I do any other culture's cuisine in an authentic fashion. I make it the way I like it the most. Guys, thanks for stopping in. Let's get busy in the kitchen. So this is plain, fine ground white cornmeal out of Kittrell, North Carolina, or Kittrell, depending on however you say it, where you're from. I like using products that are native to North Carolina, things that I grew up eating. And normally when I was growing up, we used House Autry brand, plain, fine, ground, white cornmeal for all kinds of things, y'all, not just cornbread, but they have actually quit making it. And it was probably one of the oldest institutions in North Carolina that produced cornmeal. And I believe that family, House and then Autry, I believe it was two families. I believe that came straight from England, if I'm not mistaken. I have to do a little bit of research on that, but they quit making it, y'all. But fortunately, we still have Moss and maybe another brand or two out there that's been producing this, y'all, for umpteen years. And it tells you on here, 150 years. I am using this in place of a traditional ingredient in this Arabic type dish that we're making tonight. And some of you may be like, what in the world are you doing making something Arabic? So y'all, a fun fact, some really, really great friends of ours, and we consider them family, not just friends, are from Lebanon. When I was probably 10 or 11 years old, maybe 12, somewhere along in there, my dad made friends with a gentleman through his work that he just bonded with and really became like brothers over the years. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He's passed on. But some things that I remember that were fantastic about those years of our friendship, especially were from the time we were young till even on up, grown and married, all of us, was getting together for big meals. And my first experience with Arabic food of any kind, I say Arabic, Lebanese, however you want to call it, Mediterranean, was when I was around that, 10 to 12-year-old mark. And these were flavors that I had never experienced in my life. So I'm not going traditional 100% on this with the flavors, but I am going 100% with it on, and some of you say no you aren't if you watch this, but to me, from what I remember watching growing up, how I'm going to prepare this dish tonight. So exactly what is this dish, you ask? Well, it's a hamburger dish, can be eaten raw. Not a fan of it that way myself personally, but I am making a cooked version of it. And I serve it on a warm pita with some condiments, and I think it makes a really good sandwich. Some people are going to say, Matthew, you're just making gyros. Well, it's very similar to that, but I am using, in place of bulgur wheat, which is fine, but unfortunately the grocery store that I stopped in this morning with Lisa doesn't carry bulgur wheat, but they do carry plenty of fine ground white cornmeal, and I'm going to use that in place of bulgur wheat, which is a bulking item to the ground beef. I really don't know why they put that in there. Maybe just for texture. I do like that, but I think we're going to get the same thing. Actually, I know we are because I've done this many times. We're going to get a very similar consistency and texture in our final product using the cornmeal. This dish starts off with ground hamburger. And if you are going to make the raw version of this, I would suggest that you use freshly ground from a reputable source that you're familiar with. And I'm talking like somebody local that raises their own beef instead of the mass-produced stuff. This has been frozen, thawed out. I'm definitely not going to prepare this into a raw, something raw that we're going to eat. I like my burgers cooked about medium, and I kind of try to treat this about the same. It's probably going to actually be cooked a little bit further than that, but start off with some good ground beef, and this is good ground beef. You're also going to have some roasted sesame seeds. I've already toasted these on top of the stovetop. I use those in the hummus. If you watched me make hummus or hummus or however you say it the other day in a little short video. So toasted sesame seeds. We're going to need some onion, and I've just got a large white onion. We'll be using about half of this onion, and this is a big one. This thing probably weighs a pound at least. Some garlic from the jar, because that's just easy, y'all. It's easy peasy and I like using it. A few spices, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of smoked paprika, and I need to grab one more thing out. Some of that cayenne that we grew in the garden, broke down, and now have it for use in dishes just like this. First things first, get your onion prepared. Good gracious, that's a tough skin on that onion. And that is a sharp knife, but that is tough. Big old onion from the grocery store. And we're going to use half of this onion. And that may seem like a lot, but you're going to want that extra moisture for the cornmeal that's going in this, in place of bulgur wheat, which is a traditional method to make this. It's actually, if I'm not mistaken, the national dish, or one of them, of Lebanon, which is where our friends are from. But I'm going to basically mince this up a little bit, and I'll just go through like such. That's a tough onion. And I want to get me a little mincing action going on. And you can even put this in the food processor if you want to get it real fine. But I can do it right here on top of this little cutting board. After your onion is chopped up pretty fine, go straight into that. It's 1 pound, y'all, 1 pound of ground beef. And I would say here, just looking at it, I cook by eye. There is probably a cup and a half here of chopped up real fine white onion. This is kind of a strong onion, and that's what I like in this dish. That way I can taste it. Straight into the bowl with the hamburger. Now you can add your sesame seeds, because this, y'all, this is getting mixed. It's getting mixed up real nice and fine. After you throw in the sesame seeds, I'm going to take a tablespoon of garlic, and just a little bit more, because y'all, I like garlic. I like it. Ever since I had that junk several years ago, my taste buds for the longest time didn't work at all. And now they're pretty muted, but it does seem to be getting a little bit better down here. Cinnamon. 1 dash will do you, y'all. That is all the cinnamon that you need for this dish. Some smoked paprika. A couple of shakes of that. About a half dozen shakes. And some of this crushed red pepper that we did. That's probably about a teaspoon worth. You don't need it crazy spicy, but I like a little bit of spice there. And try not to breathe over it. I felt like I just got pepper sprayed all over again. All over again. Yeah, I used to do that kind of work. I don't want to get pepper sprayed. Salt. Good healthy pinch there. With just a little bit more. Now is when it's going to get fun. Have everything in there that I need. We're going to use those tools that God gave us and mix this, because I want it all mixed. But we're not mixing it thoroughly just yet. I want to add some of this cornmeal. Just getting the mix started. Into that mix, I have 1/4 cup of that fine ground white cornmeal. And what that's going to do, y'all, it's going to soak up some of the liquid as it cooks, but it's going to give just a little bit different. Edited out the sneezes for you guys. Going to give a little different texture. Now, it's almost like making meatloaf, y'all, and it's very similar to that. I think probably every culture has their own style of meatloaf, and that's basically what we're making here. It's a people. Well, most of you have probably never even tasted kibbeh or however you say it. I've tasted plenty of it, and I love it. But I really like this Americanized version of it here. Get it nice together here, and we're gonna make it smooth, y'all. And so keep using those tools that God gave you, and keep on working it. Now, y'all, like every other thing around here that I cook, for the most part, it's going to go in a cast iron pan. But what I'm going to do here, y'all, is I'm not forming it up like one big old piece of meatloaf like we would do. I am actually taking these and forming them into little teeny tiny elongated meatloaves. Kind of like that. About the length of, well, my hand's probably different than your hand, but about the length of my hand. I'm shooting for probably about 7 or 8 inches long there. Kind of like a kidney shape. And that's going to go straight down into this cast iron pan. Every single one of them. And this is going to be the meat component of the sandwiches that I am making for supper. So these little footballs are going to go into a 325-degree oven, and it's going to take a little over 60 minutes for these to cook. You can stick a meat thermometer in there and make sure they're up to temp, but I want these to cook all the way through. Then I'm going to turn my broiler on, jack up some heat on top, and get them a little bit crispy. That way they'll have that extra bite of texture when they go on these pita sandwiches. While our main course is in the oven cooking, we're going to make up a side dish, y'all. One that I remember eating at our friend's home, it was a potato dish. And if I'm not mistaken, traditionally they would use like a red bell pepper, some spices, some oil, and they would have either a deep fried or a baked potato dish on the side, like cubed potatoes. Think of it as potato salad without mayo and all that stuff, just some other stuff in it. But I'm going to peel a couple of North Carolina grown potatoes, grown not too far from where we're living. And I'm going to use an orange bell pepper that we've got in the fridge that needs to be cooked. It's going to be bad in about another day or two. So I'm actually going to saute these up. I'm going to cube them, saute them up. It's going to make a good side dish. Nothing fancy, y'all. Just a little bit of salt and pepper, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of this bell pepper, little cubes, nice little sauteed side dish. Warm piece of pita bread. On that pita bread, I'm taking some of that hummus that I made in that short video. If y'all have watched it, I like putting my hummus right on to the bread. And onto that, some tomato. We'll need to put a little bit of salt on the tomato. Some black olives, that's how I like it. Traditionally, this would have a plain yogurt and cucumber sauce on it, but we're doing it differently, y'all. We like sour cream on ours, because I guess probably because that's our palate. If we were natives to Lebanon or some other foreign country where this meal is eaten, our palates would be different, but I can eat it both ways. But this is a little bit more of an Americanized version. Ain't no little bit to it. It's a whole lot more Americanized version. Nice piece of lettuce right on there. Now, we'll get out the kibbeh, is what I call it, but it's very much an Americanized version. Once again, it's not authentic, y'all. It's just done in the style of. It's my representation of what I enjoy. Hot pan, y'all. You can see that. That is beautiful. Dig out a piece of this. And we'll lay it right on top of that. And we're getting there. We're getting there. Can't forget our side of the potatoes, Matthew, and bell pepper. Just salt and pepper, y'all, and olive oil. Nothing fancy at all here. Put a little bit on the side. And you can do this in the traditional way with a red bell pepper and some spices. This is just pretty much plain. All right, time for a taste test. And y'all, this is a big old sandwich. And if you have never tried this, you owe it to yourself to try it. Get a little culture in your life. See if I can get a bite with that meat right there too. Let me get one more. I'm enjoying it so much I don't even want to stop and talk about it. The same flavors are there that I remember from my youth, spending time with our friends from Lebanon. The same flavors are there, but in a little bit different package. No cilantro. I think that was a primary ingredient. I'm not a big fan of cilantro, so I admit that. But you get the onion, you get the garlic, you get the cinnamon, the hint of the cinnamon. It's just a really good dish, and you could throw a little lemon juice on this too if you wanted to. Now the side is nothing but roasted potatoes and that bell pepper. And it's a fantastic accompaniment to this sandwich. Guys, if you have not tried something like this, break out of your comfort zone and give it a try. I believe that you will like it. Guys, y'all have a good day and a great week, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise too high. We'll see you on the next one. We're going to enjoy this version of Kibbeh.